There's a shameful secret in the print-on-demand world, and it's that some people are very embarrassed to admit that they're not very creative. So that's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed about. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 big picture ideas to help you with your creativity. So I'm on a website here called comicbookplus.com. I highly recommend it. You can see here right on the main page, it says all the content is free and legal. These are public domain comic books right there, free public domain books. And so what you can do is go right up here to the categories selection, and you can pick all sorts of different comic books. So just for example, I'm going to go into crime, and we can see now as I scroll down, there's all these crime comic books. And by the way, there's 6 pages. Don't forget about this right at the top. It says page 1 of 6. So I'm just going to click next. You'll see page 2 of 6, page 3 of 6, and so on. So these are all free. You can download these. You can use these for whatever you want. So I am going to pick, for example, Inside Crime. There's 2 books here. I'm going to click on Inside Crime number 2. And here is the actual cover. We can see somebody's doing a jailbreak. And when you click on the page itself, you get inside the comic book. So this is the Mad Baroness. Oh no, she's up to no good. This is a true crime story. Tons of text, great looking photos. So I highly recommend taking some time and looking through these different comics because there's tons of interior pages, ads, and covers. And they're a ton of fun to read. And then in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use these to make things like t-shirt designs and fine art prints. So I've got 3 big picture strategies. Let's jump in. Okay, so strategy number 1 is to use the cover. And I've got 2 ways you can use the cover big picture. So I'm here on the main page on Comic Book Plus. I'm going to go select a category. I'm going to go to romance. And then from here, I'm going to pick All for Love. This is one of my favorite series. And I'll just pick one here at random, All for Love. How about this one here? So this is All for Love. Oh, this poor lady's crying. She's probably got some rascal that she's seeing on the side here. Okay, so this is All for Love, June, July 1959. So what you can do in this case is you can make a print of just the comic book as is. So all I'm going to do is just right click and just save the image. Okay, and I'm in Photoshop now, and I've got a custom template set up for 11 inches wide by 17 inches high, and I'm just going to click OK. So that's going to give me now an 11 by 17 poster print, and I can now go File, and I'll just place my image. Okay, and there it is. It pops up. So you've got a choice to make now with an 11 by 17 because the image, the comic book cover isn't the exact size. So typically what I do is I scroll it, I shrink it down a tiny bit, and I make a little frame around it. So if I was getting this printed, for example, at the Staples, then what I would do is add a layer. Usually the layer would be, say, white or black. And then what I'm going to do here is digitally trim the book. And it's pretty easy to do. I just rasterize the layer. I don't want to make this a technical tutorial, but if you're using, say, Affinity Photo or even Inkscape, you could do this. And see on the left-hand side, I'm just going to trim off the scan just to make it a bit more clean. Same thing on the right-hand side. I'm grabbing the black and I'm going to try to trim that off as well. So it's pretty easy to make these comic books really pop with a nice clean edge to them. And I'm just going to do this here on all 4 edges. And now we've got a beautiful looking comic book cover. So I'm just going to center, make the plumb and center. There we go. So that would be a comic book. And I have sold these. I've gone to Staples. I've gotten these printed and I've sold them on Facebook Marketplace. I've sold them on eBay. And I've also sold them as a fine art print on demand sites. Okay, the second option is to change something about the cover to make it more unique. So for example, and this is going to be a real quick example here. Obviously, you'd spend more time making sure this is correct, but I'm just going to take the eyedropper tool and then I'm just going to fill in the actual cover. So here I'm just going to start painting and I'm just going to paint over the love. Okay, so I've just got now a blank top and now I can create a text design. So I'm going to make my text black just to start. Okay, so I've added in now the punchline here. So this would be like for a birthday card, for example, and I'm going to move that here. Again, this does take some imagination because you're looking at a comic book cover as is and you're asking yourself, is there a way I can make this funny? Is there a way I can make this different? So imagine if you got this as, say, a birthday card. This is something that I've sold on sites like Zazzle, not this exact design because I just made it in 30 seconds, but this would be something where you could create a comic book cover with the vintage art that's public domain, but you can make it funny, or you can make it endearing, or you can make it niched down. Tip number 2 is to use the logo. So here I'm going to pick a different type of comic book. I'm going to pick a horror comic book. So for example, over here, Beware Terror Tales. This is pretty nice. So I'm just going to scroll through these and I'm just going to find a high quality scan. Let's go to the very first page here. So we can see Beware Terror Tales. This looks pretty good. I'm just going to save this. Okay, so inside your graphics design tool now, all you want to do is just remove out everything other than the logo. So I'm going to remove out the top piece. I'm going to grab this bottom piece and just click the delete key. And then I'm just going to clean up using my eraser tool. So I'm just going in now and just cleaning up. So the point here being that somebody's going to buy this simply for the logo. They don't particularly care about the comic book images themselves. It's important to go in and make sure that you've got the entire background cleaned up. So I'm going to go in here now and remove out this cream colored background. One of the things you can do if you're working in Photoshop or Affinity Photo is you can have a different layer underneath that's a completely different color. So for example, I'm going to make a bright blue layer and I'm going to fill it. And I'm not going to use that layer on the actual t-shirt, but it just helps me pick out if I've got little dribs and drabs left over in my comic book design. Okay, so now I'm just going to remove the background and then I'm going to make sure that this is set. Now this is on a Redbubble template, so I would just set it maybe right there, for example, and that would actually be my t-shirt design. I would just save this now as a PNG, and then this would be on the actual t-shirt. You can also mix and match images as well. So if you wanted to use this dude here in the middle, he's pretty cool. So I'm just going to highlight him, and I'm going to copy and paste just him. And so then now I've got him sitting in the middle. So you could use him just like that, or you could remove out some of the background. So for example, I could just go in and I could remove out the yellow, and then I could work to remove out all the stuff around him and basically just have sort of a comic book cover, but not really. You could have it with the image, you could have it without the image, or in my case, I've sort of got a hybrid where I've got a little bit. That would look really nice on a t-shirt. It's the best of both worlds where you've got sort of a comic book cover, but it's not too big on a t-shirt. Tip number 3 is to pick some sort of an image with a speech balloon specifically, and then we can either use it as is or we can modify it. So here I've got the exact same comic book, but I've got this lady, this damsel in distress, and she's screaming because here come the big hands. So I'm going to right click and save this image. Okay, so here I've got a Merch by Amazon background, and now I'll import the image. Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of work, and I am going to go pretty quick here. So obviously you take more time to make sure this is high quality, but I'm just going to copy and paste just the piece that I need. And now I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to go up to the actual speech balloon, and I'm just going to delete out everything inside the speech balloon. So using the magic eraser tool, I can get rid of the actual cream color, and then using the eraser itself, I can go in and I can get rid of the text. And then now I'm going to just fill it, and I'm going to fill it with white. Okay, and now we're ready to do the text piece. So now I'm going to click the text button. So what I would recommend for font is a font called Bada Boom. And you can see there now I've got the font sitting in there. One thing you can do is you can use the eyedropper tool to pick another black. So for example, I don't want the black to be so pronounced, so I'm actually going to use the eyedropper tool near her eyes to get more of a gray, and then I'll just make sure that that font now is the gray color instead. It just softens it a tiny bit. It makes it a little bit more in line with the rest of it. The other thing you can do as well is you can make these funny too, right? So there I've changed out the text, worst first date ever. You could put this on a t-shirt. You could even have it as a fine art print, but I typically would use these for a t-shirt design. And again, you can mix and match these techniques as well, right? So for example, using the magic eraser tool, I can go in and I could remove out some of the color, and then that would look pretty cool on a t-shirt depending on the color of the t-shirt. So for example, you could remove out some of the background and sort of border it a little bit like that. So there's lots of different options. You can also leave in a lot of the stipple because sometimes that looks good on a t-shirt as well. So I hope you found this helpful. I love, love, love Comic Book Plus. I'd love to hear if you've got a creative idea down below that maybe I haven't thought of. Please do share with the group. I'd love to hear it. And if you have a question as well, please throw it down there. And here's another video on how you can supercharge your graphics design skills.